All right, y'all. Here we are. Hood Politics with Prop. You already knew because you obviously have clicked play at some point. Today's a special one. We do this series called Terraformers, and which was, according to the surveys we took, was like the least liked types of episodes. I was like, y'all don't want to meet people actually doing good, you know? But I'm like, I don't care what y'all say. You gonna get this work, right? So
Yeah.
so every once in a while we try to bring in people actually doing real work out here, you know? And somehow, I don't know how we got connected. I just got an email that said, y'all need to holler at Maurice. And I was like, let's holler at Maurice. So Working Families Party, right?
Right.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the block, Maurice Mitchell.
It's good to be with you, bro. It's good to be here, man.
Yeah.
Glad to be with you and your audience, for real.
Yeah. So glad to have you here, man. This is unique. Like the reality is, I have never said yes to a candidate that wanted to be interviewed on the show. I've never said yes to anybody that's part of a party. Like I've never said yes to that. You know what I'm saying? Some of that is because like I don't know you, cuz. You know what I'm saying? And like you're not finna use my name. You feel me?
Right.
Like I work real hard for this name I got. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you know, it's very rare that like I don't be giving out them cosigns like that. You know what I'm saying? Most of the people we've had on the show I've either known personally or have been a fan of for a long time. You know what I'm saying? So this is really a first. You know what I'm saying? Because I think
Are breaking new ground.
what you're doing is so
Okay.
super unique. So for y'all that don't know, this young man is the head of a major political party. And I'm gonna say major because you major, homie. You know what I'm saying? And and we did an episode last year, which is basically about like it was like political parties here are like ordering at like a Jamaican restaurant to where it's just like, yeah, I know how that. Like, you know, like your actual order, what you walk in there to you actually order, they ain't got. You know what I'm saying?
Like, yo,
Like,
let me get a patty done.
party done, yes.
All right. Let me
You already know. Yeah, rice and peas. No rice and peas. When's done? Any fish? I know how that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you not gonna have. So I just gotta settle with whatever you willing, whatever's left. And I'm like, that's what I feel like voting is here. You
Yeah,
know?
that's a really good analogy. Yeah. You gotta settle and and you're confused. It's like, why are they mad at me? Like I'm trying to I'm in your establishment. I'm trying to
I don't understand. First of all, you wrote it on the menu. You said this was an option. You know what I'm saying? You tell me it's not an option? I
That's
can't
right.
substitute the sweet potato fries. What if I'm like, what if I don't like how come I can't get the tots? Nah.
Nope.
This how
Nope.
the menu this how the menu works. It's like, well damn, okay. Uh
Oh,
so
yeah.
having viable, you know, third, fourth, fifth party options has been something that's been a blaring problem
Yeah.
since, you know, really like, I mean, whether we talking like Whigs or
hmm
like
Yeah.
Federalist Democratic Republic, like finding a viable option has, you know, is just kind of like it's built into the batter. You know what I'm saying? So it's just been a difficult thing. So what you're doing is really a Herculean lift, number one, you know what I'm saying? And then number two, like really it's I mean it's necessary. So that being said, let's hear some of this math here. So first of all, like
Okay.
who are you? Right? Where you from? And like if you can, I'm pretty sure you've practiced this plenty of times, but like what was that catalyst that was like, all
hmm
right, fam, I'm getting in this.
Yeah. Okay. So, who am I? I mean, I feel like
Right.
whenever I get posed that question, there's so many ways I can answer it. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm definitely a child of the 80s,
Okay.
right? I'm definitely a child of the 80s. I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in a different there's another Long Beach. I grew up in a Long Beach on the East Coast,
Okay. Oh, the New York
right?
one. Okay.
Yeah, Long
Yeah.
Beach, New York.
Uh-huh.
Um,
The second
and
Long Beach. I'm
yeah.
just kidding. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was just unnecessary shade.
Oh
Anyway, go
man,
ahead.
yo, listen. Oh man, but I'm a child of the golden era of hip hop.
Word.
You know, my cousins were hip hop artists.
Hmm.
So I got a front row seat of witnessing this very, very special time in hip hop in
Yeah.
the late 80s to early 90s to mid 90s that was
Yeah.
really beautiful. And that has really shaped my life, shaped my politics in many
Same.
ways.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I'm somebody who was raised in a family of Black people that understood the assignment.
Yeah.
So both of my parents, they're working class folks. You know, my mom is a retired registered nurse.
Hmm.
My dad was a retired electrician, worked underneath trains,
Yeah.
and they both worked long hours.
Hmm.
And but they would make sure every weekend or every other weekend we'd go to the Black bookstore,
Word. Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and we would get to choose a book,
Yeah.
right? And so I didn't realize, looking back, I see how foundational that was for me.
Yeah.
I'm somebody who, there's a event that took place that we need to always bring up, the move bombing,
Hmm. In
Philadelphia,
Philly. Yeah.
right? Where our country
Like
out bombed
us.
bombed us. This isn't recent
Like,
memory. This isn't Black Wall Street,
yeah.
right?
We were alive.
This is
Yeah.
recent memory, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm in a family that my dad always brought up the move bombing. He's like,
Hmm.
you can't forget that. I mean,
Yeah.
and so I was raised with a certain level of consciousness, and I really took to it. And I wanted to be part of the stories that my parents told me
Yeah.
about Martin, about
Hmm.
Malcolm, about all of these folks, not just in the US, but in the diaspora that talk
Yeah.
about Garvey, they'll talk about all these folks.
Yeah.
And so that was just in the air. My
Hmm.
dad is from a small island nation, Grenada.
Oh,
But
word.
the cool thing about Grenada is that in 1979 to 1983,
Hmm.
Grenada was an independent Black socialist republic,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
so that was normal to me. The idea
Yeah.
you could have self-determination and you could decide on your own, and you could even be in a tiny little island nation and still be upright and say, whatever you're talking about over there, like, I know you're the big bad superpower, we're going to move in our own way,
Yeah.
right? So that is when people ask who I am, how I'm raised, it's all those things. It's,
For sure.
being a Black child in the 80s, growing up, coming of age, no matter where you lived in the country, this was during the drug war.
Yeah.
So it meant getting pulled over by the police
Yep.
more times that you could even understand, for all types of situations that made no types of sense.
Yep.
So it's like being faced with those contradictions. It meant living right next to the trap house and watching people come like zombies,
Hmm.
day and night,
Hmm.
back and forth. It meant my mom working as a detox nurse.
Yeah.
So she's treating folks,
Wow.
who have multiple chemical addictions. So it's like I'm a child of all of those contradictions. I live with those things.
Yeah.
I was radicalized in different moments of my life. I had the good fortune to be able to go to college.
Yeah.
Um, and I went to Howard University, and that was a
Let's go.
transformative
Yeah.
experience. And two things happened at Howard that are, like, to this day, I remember like yesterday. So one of the gifts that I got was Stokely Carmichael, who's also
Hmm.
known as Kwame Ture.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, he spoke at Howard when I was at
Wow.
Howard.
Yeah.
I got to see him speak.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was mind blowing. I think this might have been his last year of life.
Wow.
Um, and
Wow.
he said a lot of things, but he
Uh-huh.
said one thing in particular that stayed in my mind. He said he was um at the end, he's an organizer. So at the end,
Yeah.
he invited people to join his organization,
Yeah.
the All African People's Revolutionary Party, right? It's
Yeah.
like, come join my organization. But he was like, look, you may not agree with our politics, but he
Yeah.
was like, what I'm telling you is that we as a people need to be organized. So
Facts.
if you don't align with our organization, join another. I'd rather
Find
have
one.
you
Yeah.
join. And he's like, I disagree with them, but I'd rather have you join the Urban League.
Yeah.
I'd rather have you join. I'd rather have you join, the NAACP. But
Crazy. Yeah.
that's better. You not joining us and joining them is better than you
Man.
leaving this audience and not being part of an organization. And so I remember that to that day. I left and I was like, man, I,
Time
I'm going to
out.
be an organizer.
Yeah.
I'm going to be an organizer. That's what I
Yeah.
wanted. It was like a religious experience. And the
Yeah.
second thing that happened to me at Howard is that one of our classmates was killed by the police. And
Wow.
and why that was powerful is that at Howard University, you have every single type of Black person from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
You got you got regular schmegular Black folks from the US, every
Yeah.
region, every part. You got Black folks from the Caribbean, from Africa, from
Yep.
wherever. You got like people like me who came up working class. You got Black elite people
Yeah.
who, you know, who their great grandparents have high degrees from college, right?
Yeah.
You got every type of Black person, and the thing that I think was so radicalizing for so many of us was that when our classmate was killed by the police, by an undercover police officer, it was a reminder that none of that matters.
Don't matter, bro.
None of those distinctions matter. It
Yes.
doesn't matter at all to the
Yes.
system, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And so whatever type of Black person you think you are, right? You need to understand the assignment that it's
Yes.
our duty. It's our
Mm-hmm.
duty to organize around one agenda
Yeah.
so that we could defend ourselves from that type of violence. And
Yeah.
it's not just the state violence against police like that. It's all the
Yeah.
different types of economic violence, whatever. And you
Mm-hmm.
can't escape it. Your degrees can't allow you to escape your Blackness. Your
Yeah.
whatever you got in your bank account can't allow you to escape your Blackness.
Yeah.
None of those things. And so the quicker you know that, the quicker you could develop a strategy for survival
Let's
in
go.
this society.
Man. Bro, there are so many similarities in our upbringing. The listeners know, but like for this, it was like, so I'm I'm from Los Angeles, but I'm the child of a Black Panther.
Mm.
So for us, like the same thing, like the books I had to write my dad book reports. So
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Right. So I'm writing him book reports on Black authors, Black writers, Black inventors, you know what I'm saying? I had no like cartoon like posters on my wall. It was the Timbuktu Road. It was
Yep.
the Five Kingdoms of West Africa. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what
Yep.
like so like and he would, you know, back when you go to the library and rent movies, you know what I'm saying? So he would rent
Yep.
like Black films, you know, like so, you know, when it was time to do the country report in sixth grade, I did mine on Ethiopia. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I did it
Yeah.
on, you
Yeah.
know, and speaking of Grenada, like my father even in passing mentioned moving there. You know what I mean? Because he's
Yep.
Black Panther. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
and so yeah, so having that just being in the goulash of understanding. I remember like, we had to do a person's report in seventh grade. I did mine on Nat Turner. You know what I mean? Like, and that little school was like, what?
Yeah.
Wait, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, what? Like, you know,
What? That's Turner.
I don't understand what you're talking about. You know, I grew up in the sort of the borderlands of the Black and Mexican specifically neighborhoods out here. You know, we obviously have a broader Latino population, but where I was at, like this is Mexican. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yep.
So like just the solidarity around suffering people. I was like, you in the same hood I'm in. You know what I'm saying? Like, so,
Yep.
you know, we just didn't I ain't see the, I don't understand what the, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh,
what's the problem, you know?
right, right.
Um, and then even more interesting was getting to college, having two things. It wasn't, for me, it wasn't Stokely, it was Angela Davis. So Angela
Mm,
Davis came and spoke at my school,
yeah,
and she had mentioned like ending prison. And I was
yeah,
like, what? Like, I
yeah.
remember, and I'm again, my father was a pet, so I was like, wait a minute now. I was like, you know, and again, I'm from LA. I'm like, every brother in jail ain't Nelson Mandela now. Like, I mean, like, you know, like that's what I was thinking. I was like,
Right, right,
you know what I
right,
mean? But
right, right.
that germ of like, actually, there's another way to think about this. And I was like, what? And
Yeah.
then secondly, was this it thank you know, for us it wasn't a death, it was this Filipino girl named Irene Duler, who I talk about all the time,
Mm,
because I she was a couple grades above me, but I had a huge crush on her.
mm.
But anyway, I mean, I think she teaches at like SF State now. She's a homie, she already knows, but like,
I was like, oh, you stay up on her.
yeah, I was like, yeah, nah, you know we all grown folks now, but
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember she was like, she shaved her head and she moved to the Philippines to fight against the Duterte's. No,
Wow.
yeah, to fight against their Duterte, the senior, to fight against the revolution. I was like, first of all, I didn't know anybody that was not black that was a revolutionary. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? But she was like, yo,
yeah.
I'm moving. And I was like, what?
Wow.
Like, that's an
Wow.
option? You know what I'm saying? Like, so that, those two things for me, I was like, okay, it's more than just knowing my history. Like, there's,
Mm,
we need to do, and it's crazy like how hip hop played such a role here, because for us it was like the Leimert Park Village, where like, you know, Blowed, and a lot of like, that was like our Harlem, if you will, where it was like, this is
mhm,
where like black art excellence renaissance of a working class, you know what I'm saying? Because you had the UCLA
mhm.
stuff that was like,
Yeah,
where that's UCLA, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
this is like at a street level, because like Leimert Park is really in between two very legendary like Crip hoods. So you have like the 40s,
Mm,
and then you have the rolling 60s that are a little bit further down. Leimert Park's right in between, you know.
mhm.
So to be in this neighborhood where like we all, it was kind of, I can't think of any particular like real problems that happened at Leimert. For some reason, at least in my memory, it was like, you know, these are Sunday drum circles, you know, the Jamaican rest. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just this like black area that like, yeah, you just wasn't a, it wasn't a thing there. You know what I'm saying? This is where we get to be ourselves. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right, right, right.
And that's where like our hip hop scene came from. As you were talking, man, I was like really blown away at like how many parallels,
Mm,
you know,
yeah.
that got us into this. All right, so my next thought is this: like I told you before we started recording, but as a reminder, like, you know, our show is rather educational. Like, in the cornerstone premise again is like, if you understand growing up, we'll use the term working class because, you know, color mute terms like urban or hood or stuff like that. Like, well, I I personally use the term like if you grew up in our inner cities, because because I am trying to expand it to poor folks. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, all of us. If you grew up any, like, I don't care if this was like, if you was in Toadsuck, Arkansas, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
Meemaw and them, you know, worked at the
Yeah,
sawmill,
right,
you know, your uncle Billy Ray got a finger missing. Like, you
right.
actually understand politics, you
That's
know,
right. That's
they
right.
just use different terms. And I found that when you approach something in terms of like, I believe that even though I'm also college educated, that you ain't no, I'm not any smarter than you. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I just think you just weren't interested in the things I was interested in.
Yeah.
So when I just say, if I just give you the game, like, hey, this is what that means. We talked to I think it was 2 weeks ago on the show. Like, we'll use the Democrats for example. Like, if you'd have just said what the Department of Education does, you know what I'm saying, rather than being like, we need to keep it. We'll just say what they do. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you just say, hey, they don't write curriculum, G. Like, you know what I'm saying? They don't hire, they don't fire. They just make sure that your little poor school that ain't got no reading teacher, and why your baby can't read, they just make sure that that school has somebody that'll teach your baby to read.
Make it plain.
It's just, that's all I'm saying. Like, you trying to get rid of that? Like, I'm just
Yep.
saying, like, you know how your baby got bad eyes and they making them sit in the back of the thing, and they sitting in the back of you like, my baby can't see the screen. Okay. Well, you need an IEP
Hmm.
that says that you need to place my child in the front of the thing, and you need an RSP teacher that's going to help you. But you know what? You just killed that funding because that comes from the Department of Education. You know what I'm
Correct.
saying? So if you just
That's
explain
correct.
it,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? Then, like, I don't have to tell you what to think about. I'm just saying, oh yeah, yeah, you know,
Yep. Straight up.
Meemaw can't get her medicine now because you just removed the law that said that capped the price. You just voted to remove it. So with that, I'm obviously trying to onboard people into the political process, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering a couple things for you. Like, so how did y'all come to the conclusion that, like, the best way to do this is to start a party
Oh
rather
yeah.
than just grassroots organizing? And then
Yeah.
what things have, like, kind of worked for recruitment for that?
Well, let me tell you a story that might help
Okay.
make that happen. And I couldn't agree with you more. Um, the thing that keeps people out of knowledge often is understanding the vocabulary of the language of that
Yeah,
particular, you know what I'm saying?
for sure.
And 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 a lot of times people gatekeep a certain type of knowledge.
Yeah.
It's just based on vocabulary, but they
Mm-hmm.
gatekeep it by suggesting that the folks who aren't in that realm
Mm-hmm.
lack the expertise, the
Yeah.
specialized knowledge,
Yeah.
the intelligence to
Yeah.
be able to even understand it,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And like people do that with politics, people do that with economics, people do that
Yep.
with so many things. I went to college. Some of it was about learning how to think, but a lot of it was just learning vocabulary
For sure.
for specialized sort of gatekeep
Yeah.
types of specialized knowledge. That's all it was. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's what that means, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, when you look at what we're losing day to day, a lot of it has to do with the fact that nobody kept it plain
Yes.
and just
Yes.
communicated to the people what any of these things were about.
Yes.
So, of course, people are not going to value things that nobody ever leveled with them on
Mm-hmm.
what they were in the first place.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Um, and so I just wanted to I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to me, that is the actual role of a political party.
Mm.
That is one of
Woo.
the roles of a political party. And
Mm.
by that measure, both parties are failing the American people. Both the Republicans and Democrats are
Uh,
failing the American people just on that base thing, which is being able to communicate to the people in a language and
Man,
culture that the people could understand what's going on.
that
Just
almost gave me the chills, bro. Cause, like, what a bar that you're like, well, you're not even doing the definition of what you exist for.
one of the basic roles. And I'll say more about that, but there's people who really nerd out on this subject.
Yeah.
They talk about the difference between a thin party and a quote unquote thick party or a rich party experience.
Uh-huh.
And they say that the Republicans and Democrats in the United States are basically thin parties, parties that are not offering
Yeah.
on your day to day
Yeah.
very much for people. But every few years when they want votes, you'll get a
Yeah.
lot of glossy mail. You'll get digital ads if you're watching,
Yeah.
YouTube, if you're watching whatever you're watching. You'll get TV ads,
Yeah.
and that might be it, right?
Yeah.
And and so that might help you understand how I got to the place where I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I need to build a party. So I started off as a grassroots organizer. Like I said, when
Word.
I left college, I went back home to New
Mhm.
York and I started working in a very, very small, under-resourced grassroots organization. And we worked on all types of issues.
Mhm.
It wasn't just one issue. We worked on making sure that big companies didn't pollute working class communities, especially
Yeah.
working class communities of color. We
Yeah.
tried to make sure that education money got to not just wealthy school districts that could afford it because they're able to have a tax base that
Property
allows them to
tax.
have
Yeah.
these things, right? And property taxes, but maybe working class neighborhood like Wine Dance on Long Island, 100% of the students are black. When I was working on those campaigns to get more money into that school district and other
Mhm.
school districts like it, the graduation rate was in the 30s.
Sheesh.
So that means basically if you are working hard and you're doing all the
Yeah.
right things and you're sending your child to that school, chances are your child will not
Yeah.
graduate,
Yeah. Only
right?
three out of 10 is good
So you're
graduate.
doing everything you could do as a
Yeah.
parent.
Yeah.
Everything that this country says you're supposed to be doing, you're
Yeah.
doing. And chances are your child will not graduate, right?
That's
So
wild.
so we did a lot of work to try to change those things. And what I realized is, and I'm really proud of the work that we did, but I realized that at a certain level, the grassroots organizing that I was doing, we would hit a wall.
Yeah.
And that wall was the elected officials
Yeah.
that even when we brought it to them, they did not want to hear us. And it was because they were listening to and they felt accountable to the real estate lobby or the
Yeah. The
pharmaceutical
bread.
lobby or
Yeah.
and so that got me involved in elections because I was like, we need to take them out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that got me involved in elections. We decided, all right, let's get new elected officials. And, at the time, New York, the legislature was run by Republicans. We had a
Mhm.
Republican governor,
Yeah.
and they weren't hearing any of that. And
Yeah.
so we were like, all right, well, we're gonna flip the the legislature from Republican to Democrat. Once we
Yeah.
do that, boom.
Yeah.
And we eventually did that.
Dang.
And we learned that once you flip from Republican to Democrat, it's not going to be a game changer because so many of those Democrats are listening to the same
It's the
lobbyists that the
same
Republicans,
bread. Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
we were like, yo, they were talking all this good stuff about educational equity and racial justice and da da da
Dang.
when they didn't have power, but now they have the power to do something. And now they're like, it's like they have amnesia
Yeah.
and
Where
they're
y'all
not,
at? Yeah.
right? Okay, so that was a huge lesson. So lesson number one, when I was working on the very, very grassroots level with parents and teachers and students,
Hmm.
the power of grassroots organizing is undeniable. But there's barriers, and those
Yeah.
barriers are political. And the way that you overcome those political barriers, lesson number two, is by getting different people into office.
Yeah.
Lesson number three, who those people are matter. It's not
Yeah.
just D or R next to their
Yeah.
name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who those people are matter, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fast forward. Fast forward because I'm lobbying those people, right? And I'm feeling frustrated year after year after year. And in the midst of that, Michael Brown is murdered in St. Louis,
Dang.
right?
Okay.
And it's hard to explain where I was at in my mind at the time, but it was like I felt a calling in
Yeah.
that moment. And I picked up the phone and I reached the Organization for Black Struggle in St. Louis.
Hmm.
And we had a good conversation, the organizer I spoke to, and I was like, look, I'm in New York right now, but I will get on a plane
Yeah.
and support whatever you're doing, and I will follow your lead and
Hmm.
I will recruit others. And
Yeah.
maybe I'll go this weekend and
Yeah.
and they were like, boom, come through. And it was life-changing.
Yeah.
Life-changing. What I saw on the ground in St. Louis, I saw every type of black person
Yeah.
imagine
Yeah.
all together.
Yeah, I got to
all
do
unified.
because I come from music. I got to do a benefit concert around that time too. And when you witness, like, first of all, I had no idea like Ferguson was a sundown town, but then like
Mhm.
once you witness, yeah, this full like social stratification of black people, like all in one space, it was like, oh, this
Yo,
is different. Yeah,
I life changing.
yeah,
Like, from from very, very, very young people,
yeah,
you know, with signs, hands up, Mike Brown,
yeah.
church people,
Church folk.
pe-
Yep.
the people in the civil rights organizations, the people in the street organizations,
Yeah,
right? Um, everybody, the everybody. It
yeah,
was like something I never could have imagined. And so I
yeah,
was like, whatever the working class black people who were willing to take these risks on these streets are doing, I'm going to support it,
yeah.
right? And so I basically stayed in Ferguson and in St. Louis. I left the work that I was doing in New York,
Uh huh.
and I was able to see the rise of the movement for Black Life.
Yeah, yeah,
Life
yeah,
from that ground level, maybe a week or two after Michael Brown was murdered, to it becoming an international sort
yeah,
of movement, right?
yeah,
And so what I saw, and this will get to why I'm like, okay, political parties.
yeah,
What I saw was, wow, social movements have the power to call questions at the level of society where everybody
yeah,
question that the social movement is calling, everybody has that on their lips,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And I saw that Barack Obama was like, Ferguson, what's going on in Ferguson?
Yeah,
Da
what
da
we
da da
doing?
da.
Yeah,
But you know, man, I was in Tanzania, and
uh,
this brother in Tanzania was like, tell me about Ferguson. It was like that,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Now, social movements could call the question, social movements and protest movements, they could surface these contradictions, like
yeah,
big contradiction in this country that we have ignored, violence against black people. Now we're dealing with it, but social movements don't necessarily have the power, and protest movements don't necessarily have the power to answer the
yeah,
question and resolve the contradiction.
yeah.
So you ask the question, and then
That's
the
good.
most organized forces are able to answer the question. And generally, under the system of capitalism,
Yeah,
the most organized forces tend to be companies, corporations, organized
yeah,
capital. So Taser International, which they produce the taser, and
yeah,
they produce non-lethal weapons,
yeah,
right? They had a product, body cameras, right?
yeah.
And this was before body cameras had become, now they're very, very popular. They were like the answer to these killings, like Mike
It's body
Brown,
cameras.
body
Yeah,
camera. Boom. And their logic was the mainstream logic of the day. If you put the body cameras on these cops, they're going to be self-aware of the fact that they're being recorded. They're not going to,
yeah,
commit these heinous crimes against people. Bop, 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 easy. And it became the answer. So what did I learn from that? I learned that we need everything. We need the ability and the grassroots, like I
yeah,
saw, to be
yeah,
able to bring people together
yeah.
on our issues, like I saw in Wyandanch. We
Hmm.
need the ability to elect people who actually are about that business. I
Yeah,
saw that.
yeah,
We need the ability to protest,
yeah,
because we got to call the question. We got to surface these big problems in our society. And if we stop there, we're going to alley-oop the ball to companies and corporations.
hmm,
Because under this system of capitalism, every problem requires an answer. And so every problem becomes a market for a
yeah.
company, right?
Woo!
Right?
Yeah,
And
you
so
dropped a couple gems, man. Yeah,
when you surface a social problem,
there's a market for
that
it. Yeah,
becomes a market for a company. So
yeah,
when you protest and you make a social problem, there is a some probably white man in some office somewhere, right, who is
yeah.
looking at that social problem and trying to figure out how he can market to it.
How do I monetize it? You,
How can
you,
I monetize it?
yeah,
Right?
buddy. Yeah.
Right?
The,
And
the,
so
real quick, the sinister propheticness of the idea of the taser company also making the body cam, that it's the same you know, like how America funds civil wars and we actually fund both sides of the civil war. Like this is it's so sinister. Anyway, go on.
Yes. Yes. And so like that was my experience. I was like,
Yeah.
wow. So even when our protest movements work at the highest level, we're going to throw up a ball, which is this organic, authentic calling from the street, and they're going to slam dunk it and make profit off of it. How can we correct that?
Yeah.
And my thing is like, well, we don't have the billions of dollars that they have that allow them to have lobbyists
Yeah.
on the city level, on the county level,
Yeah.
on the, so that they
Yeah.
have all of these capacities to be able to be like, boom, we got a solution for you. We got a solution. But if we're able to take government, because government has a lot of capacity.
Facts.
Government actually has a lot of resources.
Yeah.
Government has a lot of staff. If we people could govern together,
Yeah.
right, then we could have a protest movement on the outside, calling the question, and then
Yeah.
we can have people who are aligned with that social movement
On the inside.
on the inside governing,
Yeah.
and then being able to deliver an answer. And the vehicle, the organization that focuses day in and day out on governing is a political party.
Yeah.
That's what political parties are for.
Yeah.
Political parties, small and large, they wake
Yeah.
up every day. They political parties put their pants on, and they have this audacious idea that the ideas in their head should be the ideas out in the world.
Wow.
That's what political parties believe.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between a protest movement. Protest movements are protesting the power. Political parties seek to be the power.
Okay.
And so that's why
right. Yeah.
that's why I focus so much on building party power. It's not because I think grassroots organizing isn't powerful. It is powerful. It's not because I think electing individual elected officials is powerful. That's critical. It's not because I don't think protest is powerful. I've been on the ground floor of a protest
Yeah.
movement. All of those things are important, but if we
Yeah.
don't focus on governing, then what we'll end up doing is calling a question that our class enemies will answer.
Yeah.
The billionaires, the
Yeah.
oligarchs, people like Elon Musk,
Yeah.
they will answer the question. And I don't want them to answer the question.
Yeah, and they answer it wrong because we said the government's corrupt. He said, okay. And like,
Right.
well, this is how I'm going to fix corruption.
Okay, hold my beer.
Yeah, basically. Like, I got you. Didn't you say you wanted me to root out corruption?
Yo, listen, we
That's
got
what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm like furiously in my head taking notes on so many things that you said that I wanted to come back to. And you kind of answered the next question, which was like, well then why choose work within rather than just burning it down and starting over? And I think you already answered that. But
I
one
want
thing
to say, I want to say a little bit about the burn it down thing, because I've had the honor of having political mentors.
Yeah.
Political mentors of all stripes, and
Yeah.
political mentors who were around and very political during the late 60s,
Yeah.
the early 70s, all the way up to the early 80s. And you're a child of a Black Panther.
Mhm.
So people who were active during those
Yeah.
times, they were about that life.
Yeah.
Like they were about that life for real,
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah.
And the people who have mentored me that came through those experiences, they do not romanticize.
No.
They do not romanticize any of that type of
Yeah.
activity.
Yeah.
It is serious business. So I'll say that, right? Like there's a lot of people who cosplay revolution.
Nah, for sure. Yeah. It's like, I don't know if you know what you asking for.
And in my experience, people on the internet cosplaying revolution, 9 times out of 10, they are not about that life. And I say that based on having deep relationships with people who were about that life and if need to would be about that life,
Yeah.
you know. And the thing is, when you say burn it down, I want people to be very specific, right?
Yeah.
Because, when you think about Black people in our position in the society, you're talking about burning down. Let's use the analogy of a house.
Yeah.
All right, cool. But what happens if you and your people are in an accessory apartment that is a basement apartment in that house
Yeah.
and the door's locked?
Yeah.
You want to burn this joint? Like, listen,
Yeah.
I'm about that, but listen, you want to burn it down while we're in it?
Yeah.
We're in the basement?
Yeah. That's what
You know,
that's what the homies say. Like they're like, well, that's really gonna hurt us more.
yes.
Like, yeah,
So I want us to be really clear about what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, this goes back to, I was talking to somebody about this. This is during the election, and people were like, "Man, we're going to teach the Democrats a lesson, and so we're not going to vote, so we could teach them a lesson. And if they lose, they're going to learn their lesson." I was like, "Who? Let's be specific. I want you to be specific about the consequences,
Yeah.
right? Because when you say the Democrats, you're probably talking about the people inside of the Democratic Party apparatus that have the power. These people are very, very wealthy, very, very
Yeah.
privileged. You're probably talking about the consultants that
Yeah.
that sell TV ads and sell
Yeah.
digital ads, and like these people are very wealthy,
Yeah.
right? Win or lose, these people will continue to be wealthy and
They still
successful.
make 7 figures and go back to their mansions. Yeah.
Yes, win or lose,
Yeah.
like nothing is really going to happen to them. Like, are you talking about Joe Biden and his family? You're talking about they're going to be
They'll be all right.
okay,
Yeah.
right? You, on the other hand,
Yeah.
if MAGA and Trump and these oligarchs take office and they do half of what's in Project 2025, you're going to feel it. So when we talk about
Yeah. What do you
teaching
mean?
them a lesson,
Yeah.
and burning it down, I want us to be really specific about what we're talking about and have a strategy. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like what we
Yeah.
really talking
Yeah. And what are we gonna rebuild? Yeah. No, I think
Yeah.
as a parent, it's like, all right, your kid's like walking along a brick fence and you're like, get down, or you're gonna be like, no, let them fall. They gonna learn. And it's like, okay, uh so, so you gonna
And
watch your child get a concussion and then take him to the hospital? Like, who's learning here? Or are you just like, you know what? Let me go. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
yeah.
absolutely. And you said something really important, really important. You said rebuild because, and as a son of a Panther, what you know is that the Panthers were about building a new society.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what they were about. They were about building.
that's what I was. Yep, that's
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
still like when I say it, I'm like, I think, which is something you suggested. I think burning down is different than a controlled demolition. And if
Mhm.
you've ever built something, there are things you have to tear down, but it's purposeful.
That's
Like,
right.
I'm thinking about how it's coming down, what parts we're taking down, what needs to be salvaged, how we're replacing. The new lumber's already here. Like, you know what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
So I'm
That's
pulling
right.
this down and
That's
putting
right.
this in. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
So yeah, but like, let me. I want to, in the few minutes I got left, I want to go back to a few things you said, which is like the functions of a political party. I think one thing that kept really frustrating me during the DNC was when they said, we're going to read from Project 2025, and then proceeded to not read from Project 2025 and just say, it's going to do this to you. And it's like, fam,
Right.
if you would just read what it says,
Yes.
if you
Yes.
just let people say, look, this is what it says, then
Yes.
go, do you understand that? And then be like, okay, now these are the implications of that. But I'm pretty sure you heard it because this is what they said they gonna do. I don't understand what you so surprised about. They said they gonna do this. And then when Trump goes, I don't know these people. And then you go, oh, word? Well, it looks like the forward was endorsed by JD Vance wrote the forward.
Yep.
So either you don't know what's happening in your own house, or you lying. So like,
Yep.
I don't understand what, like, if you just say that, you know what I'm saying? I think we'd be in a different place.
Plain.
So
Listen.
so
Yep.
Yeah. So then the other thing that I think you brought really together for people is the reality of the both and, in
Correct.
that I talk about, like, a lot of times on the show too, like people in the streets having actual political power, in the
Mm,
sense that, like, if you shot a text and was like, "Hey, we gonna be on Seventh and Lime today," and then 100 people show up, you feel me? You have actual political power. You don't have
correct.
to. You don't have to. You're
Nope.
not astroturfing nothing. Like,
Nope.
you
Nope.
really have the pull.
Yep.
But what did it take for you to do that? Well, you had to be outside. You know what I'm saying? So you have been
Hmm.
outside for years for
Yep.
people to be like, okay, so when you say we sliding, we sliding. You know what I
Correct.
mean?
Correct.
So
Correct.
but I can't go into anybody's, like, legislative office and be like, I want y'all to do this, because they gonna be like, who is you? And then if
Correct.
you like, who am I? Okay, watch this. Do.
Boom.
It's 100 dreadheads in the lobby right now. You
Boom.
feel me? It's like, that's who we are. You feel me?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I don't care how many dreadheads are in the lobby. If the brother that runs that organization is paying my mortgage, like, that, he putting food in my children's mouth. I don't care what you say. You bring all your homies. You know what I'm saying? Like, look,
Correct.
I belong to them. So I think the both and of, like, you can't just try to get people elected, because, what, first of all, you can't elect them if you ain't got the cred. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But once you got the cred, you got to be able to take it somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So I think that you really put the two pieces together in a way that, like, I have yet to hear anybody do. So I got like 3 minutes with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my last question is, like,
Oh man, and this hour went by so quick, man. You need to
so
have me
fast.
back for part two,
Oh,
bro.
for sure, bro. We doing this again. So look, I'm like, all right, everybody ain't starting a political party. You know what I
Correct.
mean? Like you said, we work in families. It's like, my G, like, fools can't do their laundry, let alone go organize. Like, it's still a pile of laundry sitting in the corner. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? We still gotta
Hmm.
work on your daughter's little animal project. Like,
Hmm.
you talking about rebuild a political party, you feel me?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
I guess what I'm asking is, like, where can somebody who is working like that, where can they start? What are some, like,
Okay. Yeah.
easy pieces they could do?
Okay. So I'm gonna give people the advice I got from Stokely Carmichael, Kwame
Okay.
Ture.
Y'all
Find an
take notes,
organization.
everybody. Take notes. Okay.
Your job is to find an organization, right? And so if you're listening to me, you could join the Working Families Party,
Yeah.
right? You could actually join. It's easy. We try to make it easy for you. You
Yeah.
could go on our website. You could text my name, Mo, MOE, to 30403, and you'll get a text back. We'll plug you in,
Yeah.
right? Now, people have different levels of time and responsibility.
Yeah.
So if all you have is a few minutes, then you could go on our social media
Yeah.
and just read. Because, like I said before, part of the job of a political party is to explain
Yeah.
to the people what is going on.
Yeah.
And you could learn everything that I know there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, everything on our channels is validated, real information for working people to understand the day
Yeah.
to day, right? So that's number one. If you just, I just got a few minutes,
Yeah.
go on any of our social media so that you could learn and stay up on what's going on, right? And we will, come election time, give you our our voter guide, so you'll
Yeah.
know how to vote for the candidates who align with working families issues. If you have more than a few minutes, if you have an hour,
Yeah.
you could actually join from wherever you're from.
Yeah.
You could join a phone bank. You could join, we have political education
Yeah.
where we're talking about all types of things. We have these welcome gatherings that we do
Yeah.
every that are virtual. So you could connect with other people around the country who, like you, want to be involved, but yo, you listen, you got, yeah, the laundry, I got that laundry pile too. Everybody
Yeah.
has it, right?
Yep.
Okay. If you got a little bit more time, right? There's not only could you begin to phone bank, like for example, we're calling congressional leaders
Yeah.
all around the country to get them to push back against Elon Musk trying to take our money, trying to
Yeah.
take our data, right?
Yeah.
If you got a little bit more time, we're encouraging everyday working people. You don't have to have degrees. You don't have to run for office. And so
Now
we
you
have a
talking.
whole,
Now you talking. Yeah.
we're recruiting 1,000 working people around the country to run for local office. So if you have more time, and you might be thinking, well, I'm talking to you because I know if you're dealing with trying to uh, trying to pay off medical debt,
Yeah.
trying to get your kids to daycare, trying to make sure that your kid has a good education in a school that may not, trying to be president and try to figure out how to make that IEP work for
Yeah.
child, all that stuff. Well, then you know enough to be able to govern on the local level.
Yeah.
You should be in school board. You should be on the city
You
council.
should
You
definitely
should
be on the
be,
school board. Yeah.
right? So we will support you and we will train you up to do that,
Yeah.
right? And we also train you to support others to do that, right?
Yeah.
And because we don't have billions of dollars, but what we do know is that people power has always changed the world. And so we're
Yeah.
building this people power together.
Yeah.
So we go from a few minutes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To several hours to, all right, I'm going to actually be a part of the change and run
Yeah.
for office. We go through all of that.
All of it.
Whatever you want, whatever capacity you have, however you want to start, we'll meet you there.
Yeah. Beautiful. I even love, like you said, back to Stokely's game of like, look, dude, and if it ain't us,
Yeah.
clock in with somebody, tap in with
Please.
somebody. When we
Yep.
interviewed, I don't know if you know Bamboo up in the Bay, but he's an amazing organizer up there, runs beat rock music, amazing rapper. But that was one thing that like kind of same thing. He was doing this revolutionary hip hop stuff, and then somebody was like, "But have you joined an org? Like who's your big homies? Like who are you checking in with? That where is this? Where is it going?" And he was like, "Yeah, and like
Yeah.
so that's a reality. I have mine. I'm part of a nonprofit, Search for Common Ground. Like I'm checking in with like I have to check in. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is to me the primary. Wherever you are, find your organization.
Yeah.
Find your organization.
Yeah.
We are for everybody.
Yeah.
So I don't begrudge you if you look into WFP and you're like, it may not be for you.
Okay.
But find an organization.
Yeah. That's powerful. Brett, thank you so much for your time. If you could drop the @ symbols and then I'll let you go.
Okay, absolutely. Let me drop those joints right now at Working Families and
At Working Families. I meant verbally, but I appreciate you.
okay.
I was like, they not
I
gonna
was
see the notes.
literally doing it.
He was like, yeah, okay. But yeah,
So yeah, you could find Working Families Party at Working Families, and you can find me everywhere at Maurice WFP on all social media platforms. The social media platforms that are currently owned by the fascist overlords that are trying to
it is so frustrating. It is so frustrating. It's like, yeah, I'm going to put this video about how to change the world and chant down Babylon on this Babylon built site. And I'm just like,
straight up. Contradictions are so intense.
Dog,
but which is why, and this is something I'm gonna start talking about more, why we need to have a future vision.
Yeah.
Right? Because we have to do the work now.
Yeah.
To stop them now.
Yeah, we can't
Right.
keep doing this. Yeah.
But we can't keep doing this because we need to build the information platforms of tomorrow that allow us to be more connected, because their information platforms are designed to divide us so that they could.
And it's working.
Oh, like a charm.
It's working.
Like a charm. Because you got my man, you got my man, in farm country thinking I'm his enemy.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
dude, like
My G. Yeah, like, bruh, have
We
you
ain't
heard
got
what
no
I'm trying to say
problem.
though? Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Man. Correct. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Man, this has been dope. So yeah, follow the homie, get involved somewhere. All right, y'all? All right, y'all.
Peace.
All right, now don't you hit stop on this pod. You better listen to these credits. I need you to finish this thing so I can get the download numbers, okay? So don't stop it yet. But listen, this was recorded in East Los Boyle Heights by your boy Propaganda. Tap in with me at prophiphop.com. If you're into cold brew coffee, we got Terraform Cold Brew. You can go there.com and use promo code HOOD, get 20% off, get yourself some coffee. This was mixed, edited, and mastered by your boy Matt Osowski, killing the beat softly. Check out his website, mattosowski.com. I'm gonna spell it for you because I know. MATTOSOWSKI.com, matosowski.com. He got more music and stuff like that on there, so go and check out the heat. Hood Politics is a member of Cool Zone Media, executive produced by Sophie Lichterman, part of the iHeartMedia Podcast Network. Your theme music and scoring is also by the one and only Matt Osowski, still killing the beat softly. So listen, don't let nobody lie to you. If you understand urban living, you understand politics. These people is not smarter than you. We'll see y'all next week.